Welcome back to this week's Mounting Yard preview. My name is Bella Anderson. I'm Betfair's Mounting Yard analyst, and we're heading to Flemington this Saturday for Makybe Stakes Day, and it's going to be a cracking day of racing under beautiful spring weather. Race 2 is over the 2,500 metres, and both Interpretation and United Nations needed their runs last start. They were still quite big in condition, so I expect both those runners to be at their peak now with a few runs under their belt. Shaya is definitely the most interesting runner for me. He's a beautiful horse. I've seen him at all his starts now, and he's a lovely staying type, but he's quite big in stature, and I've got a little bit of a question mark on him rising in distance to the 2,500 metres on type, just because he is that really big, solid horse. 6 weeks between runs as well, so he's going to be really interested to see the condition he is there on Saturday. But as a horse, I really certainly like him and have quite a bit of an opinion for him as a progressive stayer. Mostly cloudy, normal for this horse to be toey, warm, anxious, quite an uptight horse. Race 3 is the Sofitel over the 1,400 metres, and the Queensland Raider Antino is the horse with the X factor in this race, and I cannot wait to lay my eyes on him. He's now 8 from 9 from his career, so he's pretty much undefeated, and all reports are that he's an exceptionally special horse, and really looking forward to seeing him. First up, he's undefeated, winning 3 goes from 3 starts, so really excited to see Antino, and hopefully he's got a big spring campaign ahead of him. Hopefully he's nice and forward fitness-wise, but expect him to have plenty of improvement to come. But he's certainly a really exciting horse to see. Detonator Jack actually laid this horse last start. He's a horse I've seen plenty of times, and he's another one I've always really liked from the yard. He's normally very straightforward and ticks a lot of boxes, but last start he was a bit dull and very wintry and a bit raggy in the coat. He was toey. He wasn't moving as freely as I'd seen him move before, and he was a little bit light behind. He lacked a bit of strength, and that's also quite unusual for him. So he's had 4 weeks between runs, which I think is going to be really beneficial for him putting on some condition. So hopefully looking to see an improved parade from Detonator Jack. And Climbing Star, last start, she got quite warm, she was quite tense, and she was quite big in condition, albeit she ran really well. So it's important to note that it's not a concern if we're seeing her getting quite warm above herself on Saturday. Race 5 is the Exford Plate for the 3-year-olds over the 1,400 metres, and Legacies is the filly with the boom factor heading into this race. And last start, she got quite warm, she was shaking her head around, she was really anxious and quite insecure in the way in which she was parading, but we saw that certainly didn't impact the way she ran, so don't be deterred at all if you see her quite highly strung on Saturday. Race 7 is the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes over the mile, and what a fascinating race this is going to be. I can't wait to see the duel between the top 3 in the market: Alligator Blood, Mr. Brightside and Princess Grace. Mr. Brightside 2 from 2 this preparation, and I've now determined and conclusively come to the fact that he's always just going to be quite a plain horse to look at. The thing with Mr. Brightside, it is all about what's in the inside, and that is what really matters at the end of the day. I say it was always the same with Winx. She was nothing spectacular to look at in the mounting yard, but it was all about what was in the inside for her, and Mr. Brightside is exactly the same. He's quite plain, he's quite rough in his coat, he's very straightforward, he's quite solid-bodied, and he just meanders around the mounting yard. He drops his head and has no fuss in the world, no matter how many people are there watching and admiring him. But he's got the guts, the heart, the determination inside, and he's such a tough, honest horse. Here, third up, fitness is not going to be a worry at all. The only improvement he really had was in his coat. He's still been quite wintry, but he's had a really healthy glow and kind of condition to that winter coat. So hopefully that's starting to come through now we've had some warmer weather, but regardless, Mr. Brightside is going to be certainly very hard to beat. Alligator Blood, he's another one who is just so tough. He's got a heart of a lion, and he certainly leaves nothing to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. He puts it all onto the track and is simply just so sensational, and just in the way he tries, and he really does his best every time he steps out to the races. First up, he was really quite big in condition. He had plenty of fitness improvement to come, so I wasn't surprised at all to see him get quite tired late in the piece, but now he's got the run under his belt. He always improves second up, so really looking forward to seeing him strip much fitter. He also had improvement to come in his coat. He had been clipped on that occasion, so another one whose coat I'm hoping to see a little bit brighter. Osipenko looked fantastic last start. I think he's one that could really run a cheeky place. I don't think he can necessarily beat Alligator Blood or Mr. Brightside, but I think he definitely could run into a trifecta if you're looking into the exotics. And Princess Grace, it was my first time seeing her last start, and actually later on that occasion, she was very underwhelming from my point of view. She got incredibly warm. She was really hot and she was relaxed, but she was just really sweaty. She was actually dripping. She had so much sweat on her, and I just thought that was less than ideal, but it might just be her. So interested to see if she gets that hot on Saturday. Maybe it was just her first run in Melbourne. She got a little bit above herself. So she's definitely interesting, but the key was that she was nice and relaxed. She wasn't getting toey, and I think that's really important as well, because when a horse is a free sweater, it can be normal for them to sweat, but be relaxed, and that's okay. It's when they're toey and worked up and sweating, then that's where I draw the line, and it's even more of a negative. She is hard fit, moving really well, hoping to see her a little bit stronger. Now, third up, she was a little bit light behind, and she was also wintry in the coat. So hopefully we're seeing lots of gorgeous summer coats and most of these horses at their peak, and it's going to be a brilliant Makybe Diva Stakes and a brilliant contest. Race 9 is the Group 2 Bobby Lewis over the 1200 metres down the famous Flemington Straight, and it's our time. Your form's going to be your best guide for this galloper. He always looks the same in the mounting yard. He carries a fair bit of condition, and his looks just really aren't that relevant. If you see him getting toey, don't be worried either. That's very normal for him. But yeah, your form's definitely your best guide for It's Our Time. Benedetta, she's a horse that prior to this campaign, I had a really good handle on. Seen her almost all of her career starts, and yeah, she was a horse I just thought I was reading really well. This time in, I don't know, I just can't get a good read of her. I thought she'd looked quite underwhelming both starts. She was quite tight in her action. She was a little bit off in the coat. She's always going to be on the lighter side. She's always going to be quite small and lean and quite narrow and not have a lot of strength. But I just thought she'd gone quite backwards this campaign. I don't know, I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was just something about her I wasn't convinced with. Boy, did she make a fool of me. She's now 2 for 2 this prep. So clearly she's flying. She's clearly in very good condition. She's just not really correlating that with her looks. So again, I have this dilemma. She's 2 weeks between runs. The stable have always been very open and honest with the fact that they space her runs with a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks because she's such a small horse. She tends to do better with a bigger gap between runs so she can put on a little bit more condition. So now that they've gone to only having 2 weeks between runs, that's another really big question mark for me, considering the stable has always been so open and honest with the fact that they'd rather a bigger gap. So again, that's another question mark for me, but I don't know, I'm at a point where I just don't know how I can work out Benedetta. So I'm probably going to say your form is going to be your best guide. Obviously, stay tuned for my opinion on Saturday when I see her again and if she is any smaller, but I've been wrong both times this campaign. So she's a really big question mark from my point of view. So I'd say your form's going to be more reliable than I am for Benedetta. Najim Suhail, he is a horse that I do have a good opinion of and a good grasp on. He is a magnificent sprinting type. He's so big and chunky and solid and muscular and powerful, and I just love looking at this horse parade. He's another one who has quite a tight action. That's normal for him. He can get a little bit toey, but he doesn't get too worked up or above himself. He just has a good little spring in his step, so I think that's important to note as well, but really looking forward to seeing him once again. And that's a wrap on this week's Mounting Yard preview, taking a look at Makybe Diva Stakes Day at Flemington on Saturday. It's going to be a brilliant day of racing under some gorgeous weather as well, so hopefully a few of these notes from my profiles on these horses helps you out, and make sure you stay tuned to both Betfair and Dye's Twitter platforms on Saturday to get my live Mounting Yard mail, and most importantly, to let you know how the horses are looking on the day and who's in the best winning condition.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.